I have a confession to make. I am generally these days quite bereft of ideas for video creation. Essentially, if I don't have anything to review or I'm not doing my weekly rotation, I struggle to come up with ideas, which is why my channel doesn't produce very regular, often enough content. I'm hoping to do more reviews in the near future now that I've started to sample a whole bunch of new stuff, and obviously the weekly rotations will continue. But given that this is the last weekend of November and this time next weekend will be in December, I thought it would be good to do a little bit of a recap of 2023 when it comes to my perfume, in particular the bottles. Now, this is an idea that was suggested to me by a very good friend on Instagram, so thank you for that. Essentially, this is going to be a recap of what I've decluttered during the year and also any bottle additions that I've included. So I'll start off by saying that I began 2023 with exactly 60 bottles in my fragrance wardrobe. So that was my collection of bottles, and I probably had, 20, 30, 40 samples on top of that. And this year I have added 8 bottles and actually decluttered 2 of them. So I'm going to start with the bottles that I've decluttered this year. And actually, it's probably not so much a declutter as a forced attrition, really. The first bottle that I no longer own is one that I had for years, and it was probably the least expensive bottle that I ever paid for. And it was Sex Appeal by Guerlain. Now, if you've watched my channel for long enough, you would have known that it was a guilty pleasure perfume for me. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's happened, or it is a reflection on the cost of the perfume, on what the perfume is worth. But I store my perfumes in drawers, so they're not exposed to light. The temperature is good, a good constant temperature, never too hot. And for some reason, Sex Appeal by Guerlain went off. Like, I sprayed it one day and there was just something a bit amiss about it, and I'm positive it wasn't my nose, because when I smelled it, the first thought that came to my mind was I've got COVID and something's happening with my sense of smell. But I actually tried out a few of my other perfumes that I was very, very familiar with, and they were fine. And the Guerlain just really smelled like it had turned. So essentially I just trashed it. It cost me $8. I got a few good years out of it, and I enjoyed how it smelled as well. But unfortunately, once it turned, there was just no way that I could keep wearing it. The other bottle that I no longer own, it's not so much that I got rid of it, but I actually emptied my 30ml bottle, so it was a small size, of Nicolai's New York Intense. Now, this one, as you might know, I really enjoyed. I gave it a very good review. I really appreciate and respect this perfume and the composition, but by the time I got to the end of my bottle, I was pretty glad to see the end of it. I understand how it's got such a big, loyal fan base, but I never ever really quite connected with New York Intense the way I did with perfumes that I really, really love. From an objective point of view, I could see, I could understand, I could smell why it's so highly regarded, why Lucaturin gives it 5 stars. I can understand that. It just never really became my perfume, if that makes any sense. And on top of that, I have another perfume that is in a similar mold. They're not the same perfume. They're not clones of each other, but I have Guerlain's Heritage EDT, which is in that wheelhouse for me, and I really much more prefer to wear that particular perfume as well. So I emptied my New York Intense and I won't be replacing it. So that's 2 down, but I added 8 perfumes and I only actually bought half of them. I'll explain in a little bit. I haven't become a influencer accepting free bottles, but I will accept gifts from my friends. So I'll do this in chronological order. Right at the beginning of the year, the first perfume bottle I bought for the year was Epic Woman by Amouage. Let's try and get a nice little spot for the green to show through. Beautiful bottle and such an amazing perfume. Now, I will admit that this actually got on my radar when I was talking to Marie from Miscao, and she was telling me about some stuff she'd smelled in the duty free while she was traveling, and she mentioned Epic Woman, and she also mentioned how it was an amazing incense perfume, and I guess it just put it in my mind because we have an Amouage. Amouage is easy to sample here in Melbourne. That next time I'd go into the store, I'd smell it, because it just was not on my radar to test or sample. And that's the thing about getting recommendations from people you trust, people you like, who you know have got similar tastes, and also blind sampling is another way to discover stuff that you may never have consciously gone out to test. So Epic Woman ended up being like instant love because, yes, amazing incense. I loved its spiciness, the pepperiness. It's a very dry perfume, and it's got a wonderfully light rose that basically is the backbone of the whole perfume. I won't review everything I'm going to talk about, but I'll leave links to the reviews. But I just love it. It's one of my favorite roses, one of my favorite incense, completely unisex despite the naming of this perfume, and I just absolutely love it. So that was a good start to my perfume buying for the year. Then my good friend Cherie over at the Top Note knew that I was keen on getting a bottle of Eau Sauvage, the Eau de Toilette. I'd had the Parfum versions for years and never really tested this. And it's obviously not a vintage bottle, but I didn't come into wanting this based on what I'd smelled from vintages of Eau Sauvage. This is modern day, and I really, really enjoy it. In fact, it's my scent of the day today. And Cherie happened to have a bottle, an unwanted bottle that was free to a good home, and that good home happened to be mine. Then in March, I traveled over to Milan for my first time at Exence, and because I was also meeting friends of mine who I only knew online, in person, and it was also my birthday, a couple of people actually gifted me some perfumes, some very special perfumes, in fact. So the first one was sent to me by one of my subscribers, and this is a perfume that they knew I had been sort of looking for, Ombre Fetish by Goutal. So these are partial bottles, but just so generous for people to think about that. It kind of blows me away that people are very thoughtful and just take the opportunity to remember and do really kind things. Ombre Fetish. And then one of my special dear friends also knew I was on the lookout for Magie Noire in this edition because of my video that I'd made about Magie Noire and the disappointment I felt when I smelled the current version compared to the vintage version that I had been sampling. And it was probably one of my favorite birthday presents ever. That's Lancome's Magie Noire. I tried to date this bottle based on the batch code, and I believe it's early 80s. So I could be corrected. And of course, I came home with the new addition to the Miscao family this year, which is Foy, which is obviously a bottle I got while I was over there. So when I got home, there was another perfume that I'd been looking for, but not actively trying to buy, but because I was on a Facebook group and the person selling it knew that I was looking for it, they contacted me and I was able to find my bottle of Grimoire by Anatole Le Breton for a really, really good price. So it's always worth finding some trusted sellers and on Facebook, local Facebook groups, because you can really strike it lucky when it comes to bottles you're looking for. People remember you mentioning, and you just got to be there at the right time, the right place to get it. This next addition to my wardrobe this year was kind of a case of, it was a combination of blind sampling, which I always recommend if you can do it, and a little bit of FOMO. So my friend Koz, who sent me a sample of Abbey Rouge Privé, and luckily I happened to really like that sample. But apparently this, I don't know if it's changed, but this was being released as a limited edition. It also had quite limited distribution. So I had to order from an online retailer from overseas. I believe they're based in France, and have it shipped over here. So I was taking a little bit of risk, doing something that I rarely do, which is kind of pretty much buy a bottle based on a limited sampling of the perfume. But I haven't had any regrets because I've really enjoyed wearing Rouge Privé, and I get the feeling that in a couple of years I'm going to be really happy that I still have this bottle. This next purchase was really one where this would be closer to my normal process for buying a bottle, where I used up a sample. In fact, I've used up a couple of samples of this perfume, and mainly because during the sampling process, I was never quite sure how I was gonna be when I'd run out of the perfume. And I realized that once I finished the last few drops of my sample, that I really kind of needed to have this. Whether I wore it very often was one thing, but this one here is more the idea of knowing that I've got it and to wear anytime. And I'm so happy that I did, because this is also example of a bottle that if perhaps I'd waited a few months too long to get, would have been a lot harder to find, and that is Mémoire d'une odeur by Gucci. And finally, this most recent bottle only arrived in the last week. It was totally unexpected, and a very special friend of mine basically gifted me a partial bottle. So there's about a quarter of this bottle left, but still it's an amazing gift of a perfume that is particularly difficult for me to get here in Australia, and also coming in the bottle. This is Borneo 1834 by Serge Lutin, and I'm so grateful to have it. I was looking forward to just getting a sample, but I got it in its original packaging. So I'm really, really happy to have it, and this smells amazing as well. So that's my year in terms of declutter and adding to my bottle. Clearly my wardrobe numbers have gone up this year, but the previous 2 years I'd done a lot of culling. I had well over 100 bottles. I got it down to 60, and honestly, when I'm thinking about my perfumes that I own right now, there's probably only one that I'm thinking about, or sort of on the fence about whether to sell it or get rid of it. I want to give it a few more wears just to see if my mind changes. I don't want to rush into it. So far, I have not regretted anything that I've sold or gotten rid of. So it's been, I trust my process basically. So if I decide that I don't want something, it's worked out. If I decide that I really want to buy a bottle, so far it's been good. I would like to think that at the moment there's only a couple of bottles that I'm almost certain that I'm going to get. One is the bottle of Gilded by Bougie, and the other very possible purchase will be maybe early in the new year, and that would be Chanel Paris Edinburgh. And then after that, I don't actually have a full bottle wish list. I still have lots of Le Lion left in decant form, so I don't envisage needing a bottle for a while. So that's it. But who knows? I had no expectations that any of these bottles would be with me this year. These were kind of all not really planned purchases. Like when I started 2023, that is. So who knows what next year is going to bring. I also have in rotation, another 40, 50 samples. So like over the course of this year, I've basically worn and rotated through my scent of the day at least 60 new perfumes that I'd not tried before. So I don't know if that is a lot or not a lot. I'd like to, if you guys know how many new perfumes you go through in testing through the year, I'd be interested to hear that. So yeah, next year will be a little bit pretty much more of the same. I'm thinking about doing something different next year just to shake things up a little bit, and something I've never done before. Like usually my wearing habits are different perfume every day. Many days it will be one in the morning and a new one in the PM. Next year, I think I'm going to experiment by choosing one perfume to wear for a whole week. So that's every day for a whole week. And then, you know, use other perfumes for my second scent of the day. So I will start the day with the same perfume for a whole week. And it's more really just to keep my mind interested, and also just to see how I react to wearing the same thing every day for a week. Maybe that nothing happens. Maybe that I get a different perspective on a particular perfume by wearing it so many days in a row. Anyway, it may amount to nothing, but I think I'm going to start doing that. That'll be my experiment for 2024. Sorry, I have rambled so much. I don't even know how long this video is. So please, I hope you enjoyed your tea or your alcohol or whatever it is you use to relax. And talk to me in the comments. Let me know what your year has looked like. And I will see you very soon with another video. Bye for now.